Welcome, my friends, to their Alliteration Gaming deck profile for the Transformers TCG. This time, we're going to be taking a look at the Combiner Superion and his components, the aerial bots. So, a really nice little thing that happened in my locals is everyone kind of like picked their own Combiner to roll with and really start like investigating in when the set dropped. It was really nice, and I decided to pick Superion. When I first saw Superion, he was the first one that like really attracted me. Because like when I saw Predaking, I was like, doesn't seem bad by any means, but all orange is not really like my preferred style of play, and he kind of seemed more like Pipe Dreamish with the whole 5 weapon slots thing. I saw Minosaur, I was like, wow, extra action in return, that actually seems kind of good, but the individual Sunicons just didn't really impress me at all. I'm not a Dinobot kind of guy. Optimus Maximus seemed cool, but didn't really draw me in any way. Then I saw Superion, and Superion, character-wise, has always been one of my favorites, and like all the aerial bots, I've always really liked them. I have the Combiner Wars toy, it's beautiful. So when I saw him, I was like, okay, awesome, we're getting the aerial bots. This is really cool. And some of the individual ones did impress me a little, like Natural Tough 2 on Skydive really impressed me. A couple of the other effects seemed decent, nothing to write home about, but not bad by any means. Then I saw Superion himself, and I was like, on Combine, Burn 3, and Natural Tough 2. Those two things not only interested me, but also very much impressed me. So I thought there was something to be had with Superion. And I was very right. Testing for this deck has done incredibly well against a large number of things, and I've been doing that basically since the set came out. We bought one box, pulled the 5 aerial bots, and I just went to work, and I've been buying all the different rares over time to complete the deck. And I really think I've gotten to this to the point where I'm like, this is like the Superion list, at least that I want to play. So I feel comfortable enough to show it off to you guys now so that you can kind of maybe move in the same direction or try some stuff out or start tossing me ideas that I just haven't hit yet. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to go over the 5 individual aerial bots first and then Superion himself. So we're going to start with Silverbolt. Silverbolt is a 2/7/1 plane in plane mode. He has Bold 1, and when he attacks and you flip at least 1 white, 1 orange, and 1 blue, you flip him to bot mode. This effect is okay, but this deck, because you have a lot of natural tough and you want to play that to your strongest advantages, is almost entirely blue. There's like 1 orange card in here, and I think 2 whites. So ultimately, this is not a super realistic effect, and usually you want to attack with other guys anyway. So this doesn't really happen much. I think you could build it to happen more maybe, but I don't think it's that valuable, even though I think Superion is one you want to combine into as soon as possible, because you're basically just trying to grab that natural tough 2 and just start turtling, and you want to combine with as little damage as possible on you, is the best case scenario. But it's fine, because Silverbolt is actually in bot mode pretty decent. He just gains 1 attack, which is fine, and when you flip to this mode, you do 1 damage to an enemy. This seems quite insignificant, but it's actually pretty good because we have action cards that let us burn for 2 or burn for 3. We have Armored Hovercraft, which lets us burn for 1, and then this lets us burn for 1. So this kind of just extends the range. Like if we see a guy at 4 health and we have like a burn 2 and then like a Hovercraft and then like this guy's transformed, like we can just tag him down with all that. So he's actually pretty nice. Like he's definitely not bad by any means. Like it's just sometimes you're just like, oh, I'll hope him just tag a guy for a damage. Like it's fine. You have a lot of burn damage. You could actually make it matter towards a kill. Like if Superion's on combined, burn 3/2 as well. So like it's actually quite nice. I've found myself being like, wow, this burn 1 goes a long way because it just kind of extends the kill reach of a lot of your other burn, which is the best thing about burn, direct damage. So we're gonna put him away. Next we have probably the best one actually is Skydive. Skydive is a 3/8/1 in plane mode here with just tough 2. Like, we're just packing natural tough 2, and that's insane. That's insane. That basically says, like, I'm probably going to defend for, like, 3 to 5 without any armor on me. And for a 5-star, that's absolutely insane. The fact that turn 1, they have to attack Fireflight because he has Brave. Then you can send this guy in turn 2. If you put an armor on him, that's even better, because, like, then if they don't have an answer immediately, they're just, like, not dealing damage on turn 2. And you can just, like, get so much value out of this guy. Like, it's crazy. This is like such a hard 5-star to kill, and it's just really funny. He's also a specialist. He's got a specialist tag, which is real nice. It's going to come up later, I promise. Then in bot mode, he just gets +1 defense which means he loses his tough 2. So it's like you really don't transform this guy. You transform like him and Firefight last. Silverbolt's usually like the second or third transform, depending on what you need from the others. Because you don't want to lose that tough 2, because then it's like he's just such an easy target. But in bot mode, when he attacks, you can repair a damage from one of your other aerial bots. Or I'm sorry, one of your aerial bots, so any of them, even himself. So it's a good effect. I've attacked with, I've been playing this deck for like 3 weeks though, and I've attacked with him in bot mode once. Literally once, so I don't put a whole lot of value on this effect, but it's actually good. We just don't put value on it because tough 2 is insane. But I mean, if it comes up, it comes up. Otherwise, like, he's very strong. He's very, very strong. He is what lets us mitigate a lot of damage, especially early on, which is important because we're trying to combine it with as little damage as possible. Next, we have the Equalizer. We have our boy Fireflight, who is a 1/7/2. He's not hitting. He's not going to hit things. It's not really going to happen. But he has Brave, and that is really important. I really underestimated the value of having Brave, just forcing your opponent to attack some characters, especially in a combiner deck, because if you can get this guy, like, if you can get them to put, like, a good swing on a Brave guy, and then you load up, like, your other guys, and then, like, after the wheel turn, after, like, the untap cycle, you put this guy back out there to just waste, like, a big attack. Like, you can orchestrate him to really, like, waste your opponent's big attacks. Like, having natural Brave is something I'm actually realizing is really, really powerful. Kind of like the green pips, just way better than I expected them to be. And he does a lot, especially if you have, like, a guy you've loaded up, like, a weapon or an armor on that is about to die, but you don't want him to die because you're going to combine next turn and you want to keep those upgrades to pass over. Firefight will take one for the team there. So yeah, he has Brave. It's strong. And then in bot mode, pretty much irrelevant. When he has 4 more damage on him, he has +1 attack, so he goes to 3 attack. It's not a relevant effect, really. Again, we don't really flip this guy until he dies most of the time. Same with Skydive. Like, these two get flipped in the KO zone usually, unless you're like combining that turn and they're alive. For the most part, you keep the Brave out so that you can mess up your opponent's attack patterns and make it hard for them to put damage where they want. Next, we have Alpha Bravo, the only non-plane. He's a helicopter, and he's also our second specialist. So we have 2 specialists on this team, which is really, really nice. In helicopter mode, he's a 2/8/1, and when an enemy plane attacks, we do 1 direct damage to it. This isn't really relevant, but I mean, if you're fighting a plane deck, like, you might just get a free damage off of it at some point, off of, like, Dreadwing, or, like, I don't know. Most of the cards don't want to attack in plane mode, so it's not that relevant, but whatever. It's there, but it's fine because the other side is much, well, it is really good. I'm honestly, it's much better because he just has flat Pierce 3. Now, he only has 2 attack, so to get that full Pierce, you're going to have to boost him attack-wise in some way. But it is really nice. Like, an Energon Axe on him puts him at Pierce 5, like, on a 5, out of a 5 direct damage out of a 5-star is really nice. It's just nice. He really gets in there. Even just most of the time, it's going to be Pierce 2, because, again, we only play 1 orange in this deck for you to flip. Even Pierce 2 most of the time is just fine. Like, he just gets some damage in, and it's really nice. There's not a lot more to say about Alpha Bravo. He's just handy. We can put, like, the blasters on him to get the Noble's Blaster if we're fighting a Decepticon to get even more Pierce. It's just handy. It helps. Next, we have Air Raid, who in plane mode is a 3/8/0, and he does nothing. So we don't need to. We can immediately turn him over and get to the really good side. When this damages an enemy, scrap an upgrade on that enemy with 4 attack. Like I said before, Silverbolt and Alpha Bravo are decent. Skydive and Fireflight are really impressive with Tough 2 and Brave. These guys are decent. They're better than I thought they would be when I first saw them, but Air Raid is the epitome of this is better than I thought it would be when I first saw it. Because when I first saw this card, I was like, wow, okay, this is going to fight an orange deck and, like, get rid of a weapon after it already attacked. Like, okay. And then it's going to fight a blue deck and not really hit. But we have a lot of ways to really make sure he hits. The bigger they are is in this deck, surprise, surprise, which is just a really good way to make sure he hits. We have the Noble's Blaster and the Energon Axe to get Pierce, and just, like, there's a lot of ways to make sure he gets at least a damage in there just to get free upgrade scraps. This guy has scrapped, like, consistently scraps, like, 1 or 2 upgrades every game I play with this deck, and it's just so strong, especially on a turn where you play, like, Vandalize, and you just, like, get rid of, like, all their equipment they've invested in throughout the game so far. It's nice. And the fact that they just, like, can't touch him until, like, you just sit there and, like, wait for your opponent to play an upgrade, then you're like, cool, transform. Now it's gone. Like, it's just so nice. It's, like, just really, really, really handy. This has quickly become, like, I mean, I don't want to say my favorite because I feel like just like these two are way more important than the things the team want to do. The things the team wants to do. But this guy really, really pulls his weight. So there's the 5 of them. Generally, when you play this deck, you're going to transform Air Raid first and just leave him there because the others, like, you want to time the Silverbolt burn later on. Alpha Bravo, I guess you could also transform him first and just leave him there depending on if you think you'll need, like, the plain direct damage effect. But most of the time, you'll transform one of these two first and just kind of, like, sit there until you're ready to, like, make that Pierce 2 matter, or maybe Pierce 3, you know, if we're feeling lucky, or waiting for them to play an upgrade to play this, and then you're usually just going to swing with Skydive immediately, because you want to force them into that tough 2 and get a lot of value out of it. Then next, you'll probably swing with Fireflight or Silverbolt in bot mode if you transform him and ping for someone, but sometimes you also want to wait to transform Silverbolt to make that damage matter, so that's generally, like, the transformation and attack pattern of this deck. You kind of just, like, wait, you kind of just force them to run into tough 2 to slow them down early game, and then just the others, you just, like, wait for the situation to come up when they're good, and their effect will, you know, will actually matter, and hit it then. Now we're going to take a quick look at Superion. So Superion, I guess I'll just, bring the legs up here so you can read them. When combined, Superion goes into 6 attack, 39 health, and 1 defense. The 1 defense is a little low, the 6 attack is decent, but our effects are what matter. When this is combined, do 3 damage to an enemy. That is not insignificant at all. That is very strong. 3 damage is a very big number. That's a free 1 shall stand, 1 shall fall that doesn't damage you. Like, that's really, really huge. And then we have Bold 1, Tough 2, and Pierce 3. And these are all fairly relevant. The Bold 1 doesn't come up much because we don't play many oranges, but sometimes it'll find you an orange, and it's like, that's cool. It also just increases your ability to search for the greens in your deck, so that's kind of nice. The Tough 2 is what we're really here for, because slapping any armor on him makes Tough 4, and Tough 4 is like AIDS. Tough 4 is ridiculous to deal with, and we're in a time of the game right now where Bash and Shield has become a very relevant card for just ubiquitous armor scrapping in all decks, and it being very easy to have, and every deck should be probably playing it if they don't have a way to get past armors. Like, that's the go-to way. But this says, oh, I got Bash and Shielded. Oh no, now I only have Tough 2. And that is really strong. The ability to still be maintaining that much defense while combined is ridiculous. And then if they don't have an out to your armor, like, they're just not going to touch you for a lot of damage. And it's really easy to combine with, like, less than 20. Or, like, I don't usually combine with more than 20 damage on me unless I'm fighting, like, some hyper aggro deck. Because it's really easy to defend up until that point. And then once you get here, you're just spoon-fed Tough 2, and it's so nice. That's really what we're trying to just abuse here. It's just natural Tough 2. And then the Pierce 3 is not insignificant. If you don't have a weapon, you're just definitely dealing 3 in a blue deck, which is really nice. Slap Energon Axe on there, you have Pierce 5. Slap Noble's Blaster on there, and if you're fighting Decepticon, you have Pierce 5, and, like, those are big numbers. Pierce 5 is a really big and really good number. Superion is just a boss. Like, the aerial bots are really good on their own, and then once you combine, it just gets better. You're just spoon-fed this incredibly safe character that can just slowly, like, work through your opponent's resources that they have remaining, because these guys really just do a number. So that is the team. Obviously, we're not going to discuss alternatives because you have to play the 5 aerial bots that we have. So now we're going to get on to the deck list itself. So starting off with actions, we're going to kick off with 3 security checkpoints. Each player reveals their hand and scraps all upgrades from it. We don't play this often because we actually have really nice upgrades. Like, the upgrades are arguably a lot more important than the actions in this deck. But we mostly just play for that double blue. And it comes in handy sometimes against certain matchups, but it's basically just in here for the double blue. Like, it cannot leave the deck because we're so all in on tough that we will play bad cards just to get those double blues because flipping them is really, really strong. And it can make the difference a lot of time in defending for enough. So it's in there. It's not going anywhere. Next, we're playing 3 copies of the Aerial Bot Enigma. This is our beautiful green pip a combination card. You know, if we have all of our aerial bots in bot mode, combine it to Superion, Sky Protector, you know the drill. We are playing 3. You could play less, but I have a lot of guys running around with espionages at my locals, and I'm really trying to combine. So I'm playing 3 of this just to be safe, but I mean, you can absolutely play less. It's more of a personal preference thing. I do also like that if we have Superion already out, we get to do 1 damage to each enemy for our secondary effect. I actually like that a lot because, like, combined with, like, an Arm Hovercraft and, like, again, like, all the burn turn, it just gives you more and more burn, which is really nice. I like being able to extend the reach of my direct damage kills. So it's a 3 of in there. I don't really want to go lower than that. It's mostly just a personal thing. It's up to you if you want to fit in other stuff. There's really after I've solidified this list right here, there's not a lot of things I want to be playing. I'm going to go over other things, but I'm not hurting for other things in this deck, so I don't mind. There's nothing I'm like, oh, I want to take out something so I can put this in. So it's staying at 3 for now. Next, we're playing 3 copies of one of my favorite cards in the deck. So this is Intelligence Mission. This is tap one of our untapped specialists that has 5 stars or more to draw 3 cards. This card's actually nuts. If I see this open in my opening hand, or like by turn 1 or turn 2, I basically am like set for the game. Like, my hand is just set for the game. This is the only draw power we play. Otherwise, like, your cards are all really independent and really efficient to play, so you're probably going to be playing each of them like once a turn. So you don't really need to like dig for stuff. This is just there to give us just straight hand advantage and give us options. And the fact that we have 2 specialists, it really helps that. Alpha Bravo, we don't always want to tap because sometimes we want to attack with that Pierce 2, but Skydive is just really pointless to attack with. We just want him tapped so that his tough 2 can start bodying the opponent. So they're both fine targets. A lot of times you'll have like swing out turns because you'll have more characters than your opponents, so you're going to attack with all of your guys left. And a lot of times you just have like your guys left on that turn, and their damage is not going to matter because unless you put some Pierce on them, they're only going to hit like 3 or 4 or even 2 because we don't play oranges in the deck. So a lot of times that's just not going to matter. So if we can just like draw 3, like it's just really nice. Like I love seeing this card. My opponents hate me playing this card. Drawing 3 is just an incredibly powerful thing, and because we're a 5-wide deck, that tap is never going to like really hurt us in the slightest. So that card is here, and it's super good. Super good. Next, we're playing 3 copies of another really nice action card from Wave 2 is Marksmanship. Marksmanship says if I have a ranged character on the battlefield, we deal 2 damage to an enemy in bot mode. Superion himself is ranged, and almost all of the aerial bots, except for our 2, so we have our 2 specialists, and the other 3 are all ranged. So you're never going to be without a ranged character, basically. And again, this just extends our burn damage. It's just completely free. Like, it's basically a blue pit plasma burst, and that's just super strong. There's not a lot more to say about that. The dealing 2 damage only to an enemy in bot mode doesn't really matter. People are going to be in bot mode at some point. Combiners do not count as bot mode. They are in combiner mode. It says it on the card. It says it right here. It does not say bot mode. So you're not going to be able to burn enemy combiners after that, which, like, I mean, you could say it deserves to be dropped a little, but I still think it's really strong. I still think it's perfectly a strong card at 3 copies. I don't mind it. Sometimes I draw it when I'm fighting a combiner that's already combined, and I'm like, well, that's very unfortunate, but I'll find a green eventually and get rid of it and swap it out. Like, it's not a huge liability, so I don't mind it at 3 copies, and I just want to see my burn cards. I just want to see my burn cards. That's like the epitome of this deck is your boy just trying to see some burn cards. Speaking of burn cards, we're playing 3 copies of Inferno Breath. Inferno Breath is another wonderful burn card that says tap one of my untapped characters that has 5 stars or more to deal 3 damage to an enemy. That's huge. This is basically one shall stand, one shall fall. That doesn't affect you. Again, like we talked about with Superion's on combined burn 3. 3 damage is huge, and it's basically free because, again, we can. This is even better because we can tap anything. It doesn't have to be a specialist. So, like, this guy, we basically never actually care about attacking with. We just want them tapped. So tapping one of them is perfectly fine. You have 0 columns of that to get 3 damage out, which is like just crazy. It's just really good direct damage. And so we want this at 3. We want to see this early. Again, like this with like Swordbolt's transform just says we have 4 direct damage on board. Oh, I have an armed hovercraft in my hand. 5 direct damage on board, no questions asked. Like, it's just really strong. It's really strong, and the cost, again, is just completely mitigated by the fact that we're a 5-wide deck. So we just don't care. We're just not inconvenienced by tapping our guy. Next, we have 3 copies of The Bigger They Are. This is our other way of ensuring damage when our guys attack, basically. Just a wave 1 card. one of your characters gets +2 attack until the end of the turn. And then if it attacks an enemy with more stars, then it gets Pierce 4. So this card is really nice because it basically says, hey, Air Raid, you're definitely going to hit, and you're definitely going to be able to scrap something, because we're all 5 stars. Unless we're fighting another Combiner, we are hitting. We are getting with Pierce 4, which is super, super nice. It helps some of your other guys just hit in general. And then even post-combination, it's just +2 attack, which is just like a slightly worse leap into battle, so it's fine. Like, it's totally fine. This card is just super nice. I never mind seeing this. It's always going to give me something. And it just really helps us ensure that we're getting in there for at least some damage early on and ensuring air raids hit. Next, we're going to round out the actions with just 3 copies of Vaporize. This is just the blue ramming speed, just action, scrap it enemy upgrade. It's really nice. It's just super handy. We mostly are using it for getting rid of weapons and then any like troublesome utilities. Stunticon Swagger is kind of like a floodgate for this deck, which is really frustrating. So we like to get rid of that. There's some other utilities that aren't fun. But mostly it's like really troublesome weapons. The way this deck usually fights is if we're fighting an orange deck, we're just going to slap our weapons on and just like smack them for as big as we can. If we're fighting a blue deck, we're going to mostly rely on Pierce. So we have Superion's natural Pierce 3. And then we're going to try to combo that with either Energon Axe for Pierce 5 or Noble's Blaster for Pierce 5. And I don't really think you can ask to do more than 5 damage against an all-blue defensive deck every turn. So we're not really worried about scrapping armors at all, but I mean, if there's like, you know, a force field or something like that down, we can still get rid of it with this. This is just handy removal. Like, even though we're not ever caring about scrapping armors for the most part, we don't want to just not be able to deal with things, and Vaporize just takes care of anything we needed to take care of, which is really nice. This is the 1 of in the deck because everything else is a 3 of. This slot can really kind of be anything, but right now I just have it as 1 Espionage, which is a white-green action card that says choose a battle icon color. View your opponent's hand and scrap a card from their hand with that color. I don't really know how I feel about this card. I've seen other people have a lot of success with it, and people in my locals have started to play it, so it kind of feels like I have to play it just because like they're trying to snipe my enigmas, so now like I have to play that game too. None of us are playing at first, then one guy put in his deck, and we were like, oh, shouldn't we just all be playing this? Especially with green, like you can know what's in your opponent's hand, and it's kind of just there, like. It's been really nice. Like, I've drawn it and been like, okay, cool, I Espionage and call green and then take your Espionage. That's like the best use it's had so far, but I understand it has a lot more ubiquitous use than that, but it's just kind of there for now. This can really be anything, and we're going to go over a lot of the things it could be. I don't know if this should be more, add more copies in the deck. Like, maybe this should be prioritized more. But I don't know. I haven't really tested enough with it. I've only been playing like a couple days with it. So maybe in the future this will be in more copies of the deck, but for now it's just there. It's just there as this 1 of. Now, ooh, excuse me. We're gonna kick off our weapons. First of all, we have 3 copies of Handheld Blaster. It's bold 1 weapon. It's trash. We just use it because it has double blue. And like I explained with Checkpoint, we're gonna play bad cards because they have. Okay, I don't want to call Checkpoint a bad card. We just don't use it often because of the nature of the deck. But we're gonna play anything just because it has double blue on it, and because we're so all in on the tough that flipping double blues is just like often just really, really crucial for us, and we never mind it. Also, because we have green cards in the deck now, it's a lot easier for us to be able to swap out these dead cards in hand, like Handheld Blaster, to trade for the green cards. That's just another nature of the super powerful green pip that's been introduced in this set. So we don't mind playing the Handheld Blasters. We can always get rid of them when we want to. Next, we're playing the go-to weapon in the deck, which is 3 copies of Energon Axe. It's put on damaged characters only, giving you +3 attack and Pierce 2. It's basically it's good on literally any aerial bot. We're just gonna let them actually hit something, be it for like a 5 or 6 attack, or just a flat-out Pierce 2. It's really nice on Alpha Bravo because it rounds him out to 5 attack and then gives him the Pierce 2 and then lets his Pierce 3 take full effect now. So you're hitting that full Pierce 5, which is really nice. Slapping it on Air Raid is really nice too because if for some reason he gets damage before he swings, I mean, sometimes you're going to flip at least 2 blues. They have to swing over 10 to one-shot him, which isn't always realistic, so sometimes he'll take a hit, and then he'll come back next turn with the axe on him after the untap cycle is up. So that's really nice. And then on Superion, it's really nice because it lets us strike for 9 with Pierce 5. 9 is a really good number if we're not trying to pierce, and 5 is a really good number if we are trying to pierce. So Superion kind of covers both of those aspects really, really well in that he can deal with orange and blue deck. He can deal with a deck whether or not it's trying to defend and hide behind armors. Our backup weapon, which because of its green pip, we actually is more like our primary weapon. We see it more often. Is 3 copies of Noble's Blaster. So this is a put on Autobots only, +2 attack, and if we're attacking a Decepticon, we have Pierce 2. So it's just a primary laser that somehow grants Pierce 2. Doesn't seem that crazy, but Pierce 2 can go a lot further than you think, as we've seen with Energon Axe in the past. And we have this green pip. This green pip ensures that we will always see a weapon. Between attacking and defending, not factoring in bold and tough, and your draw for the turn, you go through 5 cards every turn round. Like you're going to see your green pips every single game at some point, because obviously you're going to deck out at some point. So it's really easy to just like hoard these. It puts Superion at 8 attack, which is again a very significant number, just right under the 9 with Energon Axe, and it's a lot more realistic to consistently play these and keep these and replace these if our opponent's getting rid of them. This could be at less copies because of the green pip, but it's not like I'm trying to find this just once. I want to see multiples of these. I want to suit up a lot of my aerial bots with these, especially when I'm fighting Decepticon, primarily Decepticon-based decks. And especially when I'm fighting any Decepticon that's trying to defend, because Superion wants to come in with his Pierce 5. So this card is really good. Not only did I underestimate green pips, I underestimated the power of the Noble's Blaster and the Scoundrel's Blaster, the Decepticon equivalent of this card, because it just really lets us just consistently have weapons. I'm never like, God, I just wish I had a weapon right now. Like, between all of these weapons in the deck and one of them being green, we're going to find them. And then to round out our weapons, we have 3 copies of a card I've mentioned like 10 times by now, is Armed Hovercraft. It is, when you put this on a ranged character, do 1 damage to each enemy, and +1 attack. So like I said, we have 2 specialists, and then the other 3 characters are ranged, and Superion's ranged. So we're pretty much always going to have a ranged character. And when we put this on, against any traditional deck, we'll probably get 3 damage out of it, which again, is quite a big amount of damage. It's spread out, yes, but it's still damage. And we have so much other burn, all of that damage can matter, because like I said, we can have this, Inferno Breath, and Silverbolt's transform in a turn, and we just got 5 direct damage on board. Like, that's our turn, and we just ping for 5. Like, that's really relevant numbers. We don't mind playing this at all. It's never really dead, and then if we're fighting other combiner decks, if we get them before they combine or before anyone dies, we get 5 damage out of it. And because of the nature of a combiner deck, when you're going to combine or take on all damage, every single one of those 5 damages matters. It is straight up like just saying, this. When I put this on, I say, once you combine, burn you for 5. Like, that's practically what we're saying here. And it's just really strong. So that's our weapon lineup. I really enjoy this weapon lineup. These basically aren't weapons. You can't think of them as weapons because you won't play them. So we essentially have 9 weapons in the deck, which is fine because we constantly want to suit up our guys. I think it's really good. And then we have the green pip on this too. I debated cutting some Energon Axes before, but I really want to have more universal access to see that Pierce 5 against Decepticon decks, and also like, there's nothing else I'm dying to put in. I thought about cutting the Arm Hovercrafts down a little bit, but every time I see one, it just feels so nice. Just the free damage is nice, and it really extends our plays. Especially because we have 6 actions that burn, but only 3 upgrades. So we kind of want to see this more as like a combination between these two to extend our direct damage reach. So it is a lot of weapons, but they're all just really good in general and can kind of just warrant being 3-ofs in the deck. Now we're going to move on to the toughest part of the deck, the armors. You see what I did there? So we have 3 trusty old reinforced platings. This is just our blue pip, armor, tough 2. Tough 2 goes a long way. Tough 2 goes a long way, as we have learned from set 1 and Flame More. Tough 2 says probably find 2 more blues, maybe a double blue, maybe a white to see 2 more blues. Like, you're going to go hard. You're going to go hard when you play Tough 2. Bash and Shield does discriminate the value of this card a lot because that's just like in every deck now, but it's fine because if we're combined, we still are packing our natural Tough 2. Like I was saying with Superion, we have the natural Tough 2, which is so much more relevant now that armor is a lot harder to keep on a character these days. But we still want to go for this. We want to go for that Tough 4 and just block everything that comes at us. Like swing for 14, okay, cool. Block 10. Like that's where Tough 4 can get you sometimes with the right whites and double blues. It's really strong. The only technical blank we have in this deck is the Airbot Enigma because it just has the green pip. So most of the time, this is giving us bare minimum +2 armor. And once we start stacking it up, it's really good. Especially on like if we can see our Tough 2 like turn 1 to put on not on Fireflight, I'm dumb, to put on Skydive, and we can just throw tough 4 at our opponent's face. If they don't have an immediate answer for that, they're going to spend the first, second, or third turn of the game just not dealing damage, and that's really, really strong. Everything about just the stacking tough is really, really strong. And then for the other armors, we have 3 copies of the sparring gear. This is the same thing as Reinforced Plating. It's tough 2 armor, but an orange and a green pip. Now, we don't like the orange pip. If this was blue, it'd be so much nicer, but we understand why it can't be for balance reasons. So it's got the orange pip, but it's fine. Sometimes we're lucky and we flip it to get the full Pierce Suit Alpha Bravo. A lot of times we're unlucky and flip it on defense and it feels bad, man. But the fact that it is a green pip is why it's in here, because it just makes it so easy to easily find our tough 2 armor and also replace them as our opponent's bash and shields start coming down more and more. The fact that it's a green pip in the deck as a 3 of means I can see it the same amount. I have the same likelihood of seeing it as my opponent does bash and shield. Maybe even more because I have so much tough, or maybe less because they might have so much bold. You know, not factoring in what the opponent's deck is actually doing to flip, to increase or decrease flip density. But we can see this a lot. Again, this could be like a 1 or 2 of, just as like a backup that we can find once in case. But like, we just really want to draw these, and we want to be able to find them or draw them and then just replace them constantly, because our opponent will try to keep them down. And being able to put this on is just a huge deterrent in what the opponent wants to do, which is killing our guys. And that's actually the deck list. We don't play any utilities, and we're about to go into that. Don't forget. It was tested for a while, but this is what we've arrived at. I really enjoy this list. I feel like everything is super streamlined, which is kind of just the way I like to build decks. I don't like to take risks as much in my deck building. I'm slowly adjusting that style because we do have green pips now, so 1-ofs and 2-ofs of just random, unique nature could be kind of here and there, and better now. But this is what I'm playing right now. I've been playing almost this exact list for like roughly since 2 days after the set came out, so however long that is from this time of recording. And the list has not changed much. I kind of always knew what I wanted to play. Intelligence Mission was a card that I didn't really notice until it really was like in my hands, and I was like, wow, I can draw 3 cards. The sparring gears came in because we realized how strong searchable reinforced platings were like a week or so after playing the deck. Everything else, though, we kind of like knew what was going in. I've always really had like an idea. Like I said, the second I saw Superion, I was like, wow, all blue Superion, tough 4. Let's go, boys. Oh no, you strapped armor, tough 2. Let's go, boys. We're still in this. We're still defending, regardless. But I would like to talk about a few of the things, like I do. Talk about a few of the things that didn't make it into the deck. First of all, this one's going to be for every plane support card. Basically, is Bombing Run. Bombing Run is taking an enemy character and moving a damage from each of our planes to it. The first thing I thought of when I saw Superion, I was like, oh my god, 5-man Bombing Run. Then I realized that's not realistic in the slightest. You're transforming your guys every turn, so you're not going to be in plane mode often, and your opponent's not going to get like 1 damage on each of your guys unless they're also playing like Armed Hovercraft. It's not realistic. We're not playing this. Same reason we're not playing any of the other support cards for planes, because they're just not very good. Aerial Recon is just not good. Like, we're not interested. They are planes, but we basically can't do anything with that at the moment. Another action is Confidence. So Confidence is something that Autobot teams get exclusively. Draw 2, then scrap 2 from your hand. If you begin the game with only Autobot characters, you may play an action. I tried this card for a while, but ultimately, the orange bothered me a lot. To me, the only thing worth playing orange in this deck is Sparring Gear, because it's just our searchable tough 2. Like, I think that has mega value, and this is just not as valuable to me, even though it helps us filter and gives us extra actions. It's just not worth it to me. A lot of the times it just drains my hand too fast. Like, unless I see an intelligence mission, I really can't pop off with this card. And it's just going to drain my hand, especially because, again, like, all of these cards that we have can kind of like be played at any point in time. They're not really reliant on the opponent doing anything. So most of the time we're playing like 1 card per turn anyway and getting really efficient use of our cards. So we're not trying to just dump our hand. That's why Confidence is not in here. That may change in the future, but I don't think I really want to go back to trying this card. I tried it for like a week, never liked it when I was playing it, so it's not making the cut. It's not making the cut. Next is Heavy-Handed. So this is our new component of the bigger they are. It's give a character +2 attack until the end of turn, and then if it attacks an enemy with fewer stars rather than more stars, it gets Pierce 4. Okay, so like the thing about bigger they are is it's amazing in the early game, and because we want the Pierce on these characters more, than we do Superion, especially except in certain scenarios. And then late game, it's fine when we're combined because it's a +2 attack. Whereas this early game is just +2 attack, which isn't that good. And then late game, it gives us the Pierce as well on Superion, which like that can bring us like Pierce 7 with like one of these. We can be hitting like Pierce 9, like 9 attack Pierce 9, which is like actually crazy. Those are really huge Pierce numbers. Pierce 9 is kind of unheard of. But it's not going to be until Superion's hitting things. And by that time, it's kind of just not necessary, I felt. For a while, I was running a playset of each. Like, for a while, I was not running the Vaporizes because I was like, oh, I don't need to worry about armor. I don't need weapons. Just don't worry, I have tough 4. But then I realized, like, pierce weapons and stuff were really annoying and just, like, we want to take out axes and stuff. But for a while, we were running playsets of this and Bigger They Are. And it was cool. Pierce 7 was cool when it happened, but ultimately, a lot of times it just wasn't necessary. I think this can be more of a local meta call. Like, if your opponent, if your locals is flooded with, like, I don't know, Living Weapon Megatrons and Omega Supremes and Optimus Battlefield Legends, Pierce 9 on Battlefield Legend or Pierce 7, absolutely, please, strike away Superion. 3 heavy hand is in my deck, but that's not really what my locals is doing right now. We've all kind of moved away from those like 2 tall or like 3 wide teams where we prop up one big character. We're starting to move away from those, and we're mostly playing combiners right now, so I'm not playing this card right now, but I think you definitely could be playing this card in some fashion. Like maybe you could cop a couple things down in 2 ofs or so, or figure something out. But right now it's not in the deck, but I think it's mostly a local meta thing. Another action, like I really should have talked about this one first because this is like ubiquitous for all combiner decks, is Rapid Conversion. Flip one of your characters to its other modes. So like you'd think this would make the cut because I did say explicitly that we want to combine as fast as possible with little damage on us, so we have global tough 2/tough 4 on our entire health pool. So you would think we want to race to combine, but this card, the thing about Rapid Conversion is you kind of have to like, we really want to time a lot of our transforms. Like we actually don't want to transform ahead of time most of the time because we'll end up losing our Brave or losing our tough 2 on these 2 here. The Silverbolt transform, a lot of the times we want to hold until we can make it relevant, and then Alpha Bravo and Air Raid are usually just our first 2 transforms. So we have a really good attack and transform pattern for this deck, and putting this in our decks to speed that up when it might not always be a good thing. Like sometimes it is, but most of the time it's just not. It's just not really worth it. We're also like, the area bots are all really good on their own too. So while you do want to combine into Superion as fast as possible, it's not as much to get better effects. It's just to get like the protection of your entire health pool. A lot of the times we don't want to lose these effects as quick. We want to get like some air raid value and some Alpha Bravo Pierce value like before we really jump into the combination. Also, another thing about this list is it only plays 3, well, okay, factor in the 1 of Espionage, we play 4 whites now, which kind of means that the chances of you flipping double white in an attack is really rare. And while you might not always flip a white, you're never going to really like whiff your flips. Like, you have to flip double white or, like, Enigma and then, like, double white. Like, that's the only way you can really whiff any of your flips. So you're, like, you can always count on getting at least, like, 2 to 4 defense, which is really nice. And so that's the kind of way I don't want to put more whites in the deck. I really like this super low white count. Also, like, again, like, all of these cards are just super tight, and I love them as 3-ofs because I want to see them as much as possible and more often early as possible, because a lot of your deck will become dead cards after you combine, which is unfortunate, but I think there's only so many ways you can build against that without like just like hurting your deck of good cards. So that's not in there. And then the last action is one I actually played a long time with, which was One Shall Stand, One Shall Fall, which is choose one of your characters and put 3 damage on it, then deal 3 damage to an enemy. This card is really, really strong. Again, 3 damage is not small talk. Like Inferno Breath and Superion show us 3 damage is not bad at all. But we also have all these other outlets of damage. Like we have 3 here, we have 2 here, we have 1 to everyone, we have 1 to 1 guy, we have 3 here. In that, once I got all my copies of Inferno Breath in this deck and Marksmanship, I found I just didn't need this card. Also, it being blank makes it a lot worse than these cards. Also, we're a really defensive deck, so even though we can most of the time like make the 3 damage... Anyway, one of the really good things about One Shall Stand back in the day on a traditional non-combiner team is you can put 3 damage. You can put the 3 damage on a guy who's probably already going to die, so it's not really a detriment to you. But because it's a combiner deck, the 3 damage will always matter on your end. Like, you're always going to feel that 3 damage. It's never going to, like, not matter because you're going to combine with all the damage on you. Like, unless you can put it on a guy who's, like, really close to dying and then they kill him, but, like, that's really hard to do unless you're, like, Firefly and you have, like, almost no health, and then you one-shot stand him, and then you force them to swing into him with the Brave. Like, that is a play. Like, it's definitely a thing that I did, but for the most part, once I got the rest of my burn in here, I felt this card wasn't as necessary. And also, I didn't like the blank in it. Like I was just explaining, you can always count on seeing like 2 to 4 defense with this lineup, so it's fine. If anything, this one-shot stand might just become the one-of slot that the Espionage is in. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think you have to. I think you can play this card. You definitely can, because having that many more burn cards in your deck is not going to hurt you at all. But I did not like seeing it on flip at all. So that's all the actions that we consider playing. That's how we arrived at this action lineup. For me, all of this is just really set in stone, except for like maybe this one of, and then maybe Vaporize could be like a 2 of or something like that. Everything else though, like, you've got to see this early. You just never are upset with seeing any of these. You don't mind having multiple Enigmas, and you don't want them to get rid of it. Less like it's just fine. Weapon wise, there's literally nothing else I would play in the weapon slots. Like, these are just all good. You don't want to play any orange weapons because you don't want bold, and because you would like blue in the deck. It just so happens that all the weapons that synergize with these characters are blue. The only other one I'm going to talk about, at least for a second, is because it's the Aerial Bot named card, is Aerial Bot Formation, which is our weapon that goes on Aerial Bots only, and when it attacks, it gets +1 for each of your other tapped aerial bots. So, like, this is just, I hate this card. I think it's so bad. It gives 0 static effect. It's just this effect. So, like, yes, you can set it up to where, like, you put it on a guy, and then he's the last to swing, and it's a +4 weapon for 1 attack that you have to set up, like, egregiously. It's a painstaking setup just to get 1 +4 attack, and then after that, it's a dead card. Like, it's a dead card, unless you can achieve that attack formation again, but usually, by the time you would attack with a guy with a lot of other tapped aerial bots anyway, you're combined by then. Like, that scenario is only going to come up once a game, and also this is a dead card on Superion because you don't have other tapped aerial bots because he's the combined form. It literally does nothing on him. I don't know what they were thinking when they made this card. It's not. It's cool as a one-time thing, but after that, it doesn't do anything, and I'm not trying to sacrifice that consistency just for, like, a pipe dream +4 play. I just play grenade launchers at this point if I really wanted that. For the armors, the only other one I consider for a while was Evasive Maneuvers, which is just tough 3, and after the upgraded character defends, you scrap it. Just the new better blast shield. But like, for a while, I was running more armors. Like, I was running like 2 or 3 Evasive Maneuvers just to have the extra armors, because like my thought process was I want to see all these armors. But after playing with this deck so much for a while now, I've realized that between drawing these 3 platings and then being able to green pip into any of these sparring gears is more than enough. You don't need more armors in the deck. These will just sit there in your hand because you pretty much always have the capability to lay down tough 2 on your board. And you just don't care about anything else. Now we're going to talk about utilities. We're going to talk about utilities because there's 0 in this deck. And why are there 0 in this deck? Because I'm just so, like, I don't want to drop any of these actions. These weapons, the only thing I would consider maybe is like the handheld blasters, because we're playing good cards over just good flips can be meritable. But I think I'm going to flip handheld blaster more than I'm going to see any other cards I'd play. And once again, these utilities I'm about to talk about are not bad, but I'm not dying to put them in the deck. And I just don't want to cut anything else from this deck. Like I said, like, this is to me like the only thing I'd consider cuttable, but I think that's also because I haven't played with Espionage yet enough to realize the true value of it. It may even go up in the deck later on. But regardless, we're going to talk about these utilities. So the first one is going to be, probably the worst of them, is Crash Landing. So this is put on planes only, and it's when the upgraded character is KO'd during your opponent's turn, do damage equal to its attack to a tapped enemy. So people kind of went crazy when we first saw this on, like, real plane decks. It's like, oh my god, we can burn for like 5 or 6, that's crazy. But, like, there's just so many factors into this that, like, for one, it's a blank. So you're running a lot of risk just by playing it. And if it goes off, that means you had to hold this until your guy was about to die. Basically feed them your guy to die, because that's the only way you're gonna be able to force them to attack this before they have a way to destroy it. This is also all in mind that they do have a way to destroy it. Also, you don't want your planes to die most of the time, because once one plane goes down in like a 3-wide planes deck, your deck's doing a lot worse. But I thought, hey, in this deck we might see value because just because of the simple fact that the planes are pretty expendable, and we don't really mind, like, yes, we're not getting as big damage as if they were like big planes, but just a random, like, 2 or 3 burn or so isn't bad. If we have a weapon, it's even nicer, because like it can be like maybe a burn 5 or so, which can be really handy. But too many times I just played this card and then it just got scrapped by someone's removal of some kind, and I was just like, God, this just feels so bad. Like I got it off once or twice, and I was just like, this just isn't really worth playing, especially doing that blank slot. Like, I'd rather play One Shall Stay, One Shall Fall, to be honest. I also don't like orchestrating my guys to have to die, even if it's like gonna set up a good play with this. So, and really just didn't make the cut. I don't think it's unplayable in this deck, but it didn't make the cut for me. Next is Security Console. We were really dead set on this card for a long time, but ultimately it got cut. This is a utility that says when the upgraded character defends, draw a card, then you may plan one. You may put one card from here on the top of your deck. So our logic with this was like, hey, once we're combined, it's really good because it'll let us just draw free cards, and then sometimes stack our double blues back on top if they end up in our hand. But a lot of the time, it just wasn't really like, it just felt like overkill, like, oh, I'm just drawing more cards. But like Superion is just so good on his own that like, once you get like the correct weapon and armor on them, it's fine. And if you lose them, your best weapon and armors are green pips, so like you're gonna be able to replace them. So I wasn't really trying, like, that's another reason why there's just not like draw power in this deck aside from just this hand advantage card, because we're not trying to dig for anything. We kind of are just like, cool, whatever we draw, we can work with it because the cards are all super ubiquitous. So this just didn't really make it. Like, it's not bad by any means, but I don't know what I'd cut for it, and that just makes me like not want to really mess with it. Like I said, I tried for a while, but once I got like all of the actions for this deck, I stopped playing it, and I don't miss it. And even when I was playing it, I wasn't like gung-ho about it. Like I said, don't think it's unplayable. I think it could be in the deck, but I'm just not interested in playing it. Another big thing was like, it wasn't really good on the individual bots, because usually they would die, because like if they're defending, they're getting attacked, and that usually means they're going to be dying in the near future. And it's like losing this before it went on Superion was bad, because it's only really good on Superion. And so it's like, I don't want to just like hold this card until I combine. It's kind of awkward. It's kind of awkward. One card I do genuinely miss because it's such a meme is the good old Field Communicator. So this is when we put it on a specialist, scrap the top card of your deck and play it, and +1 utility. Once again, we have 2 specialists in this deck, and it's actually really nice to put on Alpha Bravo because it gives him +1 attack. So it evens his 3 attack out to get his full Pierce 3. I really like that play a lot, and sometimes you could get like some really good plays with this deck because like, a lot of your cards are very playable. Like, your armors can come down at any time and you won't be mad. Your weapons can come down at any time. Like, finding arm hovercraft with is like crazy good. Most of your actions are fine. Like, if you find like basically any of these, it's pretty much good. Checkpoint, the Enigma, and Handheld Blaster were pretty much like the only bad plays with this card, which is a really small percentage of our deck. So a lot of times this got me really good plays. But ultimately, like, when I was trying to like actually fit all of these things that I want to fit in the deck, it just didn't work out for me, and I really just didn't want to keep it in the deck, and I just wanted to play other things. So our little meme dream right here did fizzle out the deck. But I think this one, if you're going to play any of these cards I've talked about, I think this is the one that most likely could be in the deck. Either that or Security Console. I think those very much can be in this deck. I'm just really strict on all of these things that I want to play. Maybe that will change in the future. Once again, I'm not crazy to put more whites in the deck, so that's kind of another thing. Like, I would feel comfortable with at most 6 whites, because we have so much natural tough. It can start being easy to see 2 whites in every defense, and we really just want to see 1. We want to see 1. We want to get to the point where we're consistently seeing 1, and I kind of do that with like 4, 5-ish whites. So I don't really want to put too many more of these in the deck. So, but you can definitely play both of those cards. I think those are both actually really good utilities. I just couldn't find the room for them because everything else just seemed more significant in my overall game plan. So that's the list, and that's basically everything I can say to how I came to this list. As far as testing goes, I have played this against a myriad of decks. I have struck down basically a lot of tall decks, like Optimus, Nemesis, or like King Starscream, like 3-wide decks. This deck really just strikes down. Like, it's so easy to make a lot of their attacks insignificant, and once you start combining, they're just taking a lot of Pierce, and they can't do a lot about it, and you can just burn down their big guy, because, like, so easily. Like, seeing, like, 1 or 2 of these, this, Silverbolt, like, and Superion, you can almost guarantee, like, 5 to 8 direct damage on their big guy, before you even start swinging at it. And then the bigger they are, we'll just extend that with, like, and then Alpha Bravo can just get some more Pierce in there that... It really only just takes 1 or 2 Superion strikes to actually take down their big guy in decks like that. And then after that, their little guys just aren't doing anything, especially to bust through Superion's huge defense. So I found the deck tested really well against those 1 character and then 2 little character 3-wide decks, like 1 huge character and then the 3-wide little guys, blockers essentially decks. I had a lot of success against those. I played against aggro decks. Dinobots, this just like chews through. They just don't hit fast enough, basically. Even Grimlock 2 KOing 2 characters every once in a while is what it is. Cars you have a little more trouble with because they can like constantly untap and protect their guys. And they can actually like beat down your little guys pretty well. And between their mix of orange and blues in the deck, like they're so like mid-rangey kind of that you're not getting the full value out of like either of the high ends of your high base attack or high pierce. You're kind of just always meeting in the middle. But it's not bad by any means. Like, once you get into, like, the huge tough, it's really hard for, like, any of their characters to touch things. Like, Prowl's not going to touch anything without an upgrade or an action to boost him up. Like, B is going to hit like a wuss without anything to prop him up. And then Wheeljack's, like, one-shotting guys is even more unlikely unless they really commit to it in this deck. Especially if we have, like, tough and stuff on. Insecticons we've played quite a bit against, and it's actually quite even. Like, sometimes they just burst through our guys so fast that it doesn't matter. The nice thing is, as long as you can see just 1 of these, Shrapnel just disappears, because you go Transform Silverbolt, ping him for 1, do 1 of these to ping for 2 or 3, and then just 1 attack or a second 1 of these, or an Armed Hovercraft, and just like, Shrapnel just vanishes against this deck. We have so much direct damage, we will really never hit Shrapnel more than once, so that's really nice. They lose like that equalizer, which the fact that like that combined with the fact that we have more characters than them is really nice. So like, and it can also be easy, like if they don't really like hard draw their upgrades, it can be tough to deal with our armors too, because the more Bash and Shields they play, the less weapons they're playing that turn. So they're not getting as much damage on as they like because we keep forcing them to play their shields as their upgrade. So we do pretty even against that. It can really go either way. It kind of just depends how God mode the Insecticon player draws on their weapon and armor removal. I think it really just comes down to that in that matchup. As far as other combiners go, it's been really back and forth. I've only really gotten to test so far against like the mirror match, which is basically just like play your deck better. I mean, what can you say? But I've had a lot of testing against Minosaur, Stunticons, and Predacons with Predaking. Predaking can really go either way. If you don't find like the arm hovercrafts or like actually put in some damage early on, if you let them combine with 2 little damage on them, even once you like, I've combined with only 6 or 8 damage on Superion and lost games because Predaking is just like, cool. You are doing so little damage and letting me sit there and build up Predaking that we just start swinging for like base 12 and it's like, wow, I have tough 4 and I'm blocking like 8 or 9, but he's just gonna start swinging for like 17 and I'm like, I'm gonna die eventually. Like, you don't really want to play the long. The Predaking is unique in the way that he is an orange deck that is okay with playing the long game because it doesn't really run out of steam because of all the weapons he wants to start building up. That one you just kind of have to play well and hope you can find stuff to put damage on early. You have to prioritize damage early on much more than defending. Prioritize weapons over armors. And then Minosaur is kind of just like, once Stunticon Swagger just like wrecks this deck because like you just turn off Superion's like tough 4 and then he just starts like crumbling. But for the most part, like that's kind of all that deck does. Maybe we just haven't cracked the Minosaur code yet, but we've been testing that matchup, and we just can't really get Minosaur to do much. Like, okay, cool, you turn off my bold for like, you turn off my tough for a while, and like you get some damage in, and then it's like the deck doesn't really do anything like that crazy. Otherwise, also like the Stunticons are kind of like not that strong up until Minosaur. So you're doing a lot more early game than they are. The only really annoying thing is that like Motormaster stops Armed Hovercraft from burning everyone for 1, which is kind of like being able to play 3 of these in this deck and always being able to put them on is one of like the things that gives us an edge in combiner matchups, or at the very least evens it out. So Motormaster blocking that is really annoying, but we can still use all of our other direct damage and just put it on Motormaster himself because he only protects the other characters. So it's just kind of like a list of things that we've tested against this deck, but like it's tested very well against all of them, like very high win rate against all that stuff. I'm set to still very, very early on in its life, so I'm not going to say we by any means found like, you know, the new tier 1 contender or anything like that, but I do think Superion is very, very strong. I've yet to find anything that he like really just like loses hard in the face of, and he's just so consistent and so safe, and I think the aerial bots individually have like the best effects of any combiner team, which just gives them a huge edge. Like, it gives them a huge edge. Like, between, like, burn damage, tough 2, burn damage, pierce / burn damage, brave, and just, like, almost free upgrade removal. Like, they just have a lot going for them until you get into the big guy. And between ranged and specialists, like, you just have the best of a lot of worlds as far as your upgrades go. The deck is just very synergistic with himself. Like, the deck obviously wants to play blue slanted because we have characters that like Pierce on them, already have Pierce on them, or just do burn damage and natural tough on them. Everything says to play blue with that kind of lineup, and then all of these cards that are blue pair perfectly with the deck. The deck is just very synergistic and I think kind of easy to build. It's also a pretty good cheap option because they're on an all common team. So you really just have to get you have a lot of rares to get your hands on. Like, you need checkpoints, Marksmanship, Inferno Breath, bigger they are, and axes. But I mean, that's basically it, because these are just commons, and everything else is just commons or uncommons. So like, you can probably put this deck together for like maybe $60-70 at most, depending on how, what kind of deals you can get on all the rares, because a lot of them are just wave 2 ones that can be easy to come by. Anyway, this video is going on a really long time. That's kind of everything I have to say about Superion right now. I've been like committing super hard to seeing how good this deck can be since the set came out, and it has not disappointed me in the slightest. It's so much better than I thought it would be, and it is a blast to play. Just being able to block out huge damage, having this wide array of effects and removal to dictate the flow of the game state. Superion really never loses tempo, and that's, I think, what I really like about him. Anyway, if you have any recommendations, any questions, concerns about the deck list itself, the team, your own list, help, just comment below, man. Message me on Facebook. I'm really public and posting on the Facebook group. I like to post a lot of my videos on there. Get discussions going. Let's keep talking about Superion because I'm really interested in making this guy the best he can be. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you sat through this entire video because you really wanted to know how good Superion can be, I absolutely applaud you, and I'll see you on the next video.